Official Jets podcast is presented by WynnBET. Betting is a team sport. Bet together at WynnBET. We thank everybody for listening out there and watching on YouTube or NewYorkJets.com for those watching. Quincy Enunwa here inside the studio always looks the part, Q. You're always showing everybody up with the wardrobe.
I appreciate it, man. You know, I'm trying to take a little bit more care. When I was playing, I didn't really care. So now that
Come on, really?
No, my identity was football player. So I was really more like I got to be tough off and on the field. So.
Yeah, but who was picking what you were wearing on game day?
Myself. I don't think there was much thought. It was kind of like it's game day. You know, let's just go to work.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, you said you told me a couple times that you changed a little bit as far as the way you approach it, Brandon Marshall.
Yes, so when B. Marsh came, B. Marsh kind of had a couple guys that he introduced me to. So I still use his suit guy. So the suits that I wear from him.
Yeah, but, anybody who's watching our content on either the Jets platforms or CBS, we got off-season programming throughout the 2023 offseason here, knows that you always bring it as far as the style is concerned. Hey, so Q, we're not going to bury the lead here. The Jets searching for a veteran quarterback. Aaron Rodgers appeared on Pat McAfee's show almost 2 weeks ago. And he said that his intent is to play, and he would like to play with the New York Jets. With that being said, we're in a holding pattern. Obviously, the Jets can't say much. Otherwise, that would be tampering at this point. But the Packers, in turn, definitely granted the Jets permission to talk to him because they went out to California and had meetings with him. What do you think about where we're at here as far as the calendar is concerned?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. You want to rush things because, you want things to feel more cohesive. You want guys to be able to start training together or at least having those conversations. But, it's all part of the process. I think it's just important for the players to trust the process. I think everybody kind of feels like it's solidified at this point. So, the process just has to kind of make its way. But I know if I was a player in this position, I would start getting a little antsy. I would want, this team to be together. I want to be able to kind of feel like this thing is coming to fruition.
What do you think about the Jets' young guys getting together? Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, of course, Sauce Gardner, burning the cheese head. What do you think about that? And their overall excitement about the possibility of bringing in a potential – a surefire Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I loved it. I love the camaraderie. I love the fact that they came in as a group, as a draft class, and they're still combined. They're still together. They still go to each other's houses and have that bonding. I feel like that's important, because this game is so challenging when you have so many guys constantly leaving and going. So when you come in with a group of guys, to continue that love, that bond, and also to share that happiness of we have the possibility of getting a Hall of Famer, a guy that's going to really elevate our game and give us a possibility to possibly win a Super Bowl.
How tricky should the compensation part be? Not as far as the contract is concerned,
right.
More about the package if this indeed goes through. Just you looking at it from afar, The Packers, a lot of people saying, intent on obviously getting a first-round pick, whether it's this year, next year.
Right.
And the Jets, in turn, it seems like from our vantage point, that there's really nobody else involved in these conversations today.
Yeah. I mean, when you hear, because just like everybody else, I only know what everybody else gets to see. So when you hear the conversations that are going on, it seems as though there's not really any players involved. So it's an interesting thing, the Packers losing a quarterback, but not really seeming as though they're expecting anybody back. It feels like the majority of the conversation that you're seeing from the outside is really just a first-round draft pick. So, I think if that's the compensation, I mean, that's great. You've seen so many other quarterbacks. I think Matthew Stafford and different guys got traded for, a little bit more. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do, especially when we just got one of their receivers, So now we have an even more stacked receiver group, and hopefully that kind of leads this team to being, one of the best when they get Aaron Rodgers in there.
Okay, so Rodgers – again, we're not going down too far down this road because if this indeed happens, we'll talk about him a lot in the future. But where do you think he is at this stage of his career?
I have so many different feelings with it, but I feel like the biggest feeling I feel is that he is hungry. I think I'll say for myself, I've never went on a isolation retreat, but I've done moments, in COVID where I, was in my room and really had moments to kind of reflect and think about life. And I know when I came out of those moments, I really felt like a desire to want to grow and become a better person. And I can only imagine when you go into it purposefully, right? When you go into an isolation retreat, knowing that this is what your goal is, that you come out of it with, a different look on life, a different look on football. So I feel like, he probably is going to come into the season with a whole different mindset. He's probably going to be an even better player. I can only imagine that the mentality that he has now is even better than the one before, because he probably has released a lot of the things that were kind of weighing him down. There's a lot of talk around Aaron Rodgers, his family, and all these other things that didn't really matter. And I think, now we're probably getting a whole different Aaron Rodgers.
Something that stuck with me during our conversations over the years is that it's difficult at times for receivers to play with young quarterbacks. Yeah. What would it mean for any team to get a guy who has seen so much, seen every defense in the National Football League, but at the same time, also potentially, if this ever did happen, knows the system inside and out?
Yeah, I'll say from my own experience, I never had a guy as talented as Aaron Rodgers, but I had a guy that had a lot of experience in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he also knew the system because we brought in Chan Gailey. So that combination there, 2015 was one of the best years that we've had in a long time, right? 2016 could have been that way as well, but there was a lot of things that just kind of didn't make it as cohesive. So now when I think about Aaron Rodgers, an older veteran quarterback, a guy that knows the system, that knows the NFL, that knows defenses, you can't really trick this guy, but then also has the talent. This is top 5 talent. This is really probably the best talent, the most talented quarterback that's ever played, at least that I've seen. I'm not, the past generation I didn't get a chance to watch, so that I've seen.
Yeah.
You bring that guy in with all those different factors, he's got the talent around him at receiver, at running back. Sky's the limit, honestly. I think it's exciting just to think about, and if I could still play, I would definitely want to be out there with that guy, because not only would I be able to perform at a high level, but I would learn at a high level as well.
All right, we'll see what's going to unfold here. What do you make of the Lamar Jackson situation right now? They put the tag on him.
Yeah.
Teams can negotiate with him at any time.
Right.
The price is 2 first-round picks. Obviously, the Ravens would have a right to match that contract. It seems quiet right now. A lot of people are talking about guaranteed money after what Deshaun Watson got. It's a very unique situation because you have Lamar Jackson representing himself.
Right.
That's not something we see a lot
No.
in today's National Football League. So you watching this from afar, what do you think about Jackson and where the NFL's at with him right now?
Yeah, it's an interesting subject because I feel like there are so many different topics that people are hitting and saying like it's this or it's this or it's this. And so when you look at it, right, you say he doesn't have an agent. Well, Laramie Tunsil doesn't have an agent either, and he's still the top paid tackle in the league. So it can't be solely that, Then there's so many other things that they talk about. So I don't know. I think ultimately, though, this guy's an MVP caliber player. This guy, he's had some injuries, but, he's not the only quarterback that had injuries, and he's not the last one that'll have injuries that'll still get paid. So, I personally, as a player, I wish that his market was higher. I wish that people were tripping over themselves to get to him. But I understand that there are so many other things involved in it that make him not an appetizing player for them, I guess. If Baltimore ends up being his destination, if that's a place where he has to stay at, I hope that they give him what he's looking for. He's even made a couple comments on social media saying that the information that's going out is not what he's saying. Like those numbers aren't accurate. So, it's so hard to be on the outside looking in and kind of give your opinion on it. But, I definitely want him to get what he's looking for.
Yeah, it was odd when Baltimore put that tag on him where you saw a lot of reports out there immediately where teams were saying, or somebody speaking for the teams was saying they're not going to be in on it.
Yeah. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but I wasn't a big fan of that. I felt like One thing about the NFL, if a team doesn't want some information out, it won't get out. So to me, it felt like those to say that we didn't want him, it didn't feel like it was necessary. I also know that, to some degree, I'm sure, you have to kind of let people know that, you're not going for this player, maybe the fan base, maybe all these different things so that people can kind of feel at ease. But I think that's a guy that, if you are in need of a quarterback, that's a guy that you might want on your team, especially if you have the weapons around him. Now, if you're in a rebuilding mode, you might not necessarily want to put him on that situation. But, if you have the weapons and you're just one piece away, that's a guy that, can definitely help you.
All right. So the Jets are going about business as usual here as that search for a veteran quarterback continues. Where do you want to start, offense or defense?
Oh, me, I'm offense.
All right, so Allen Lazard.
Yeah.
What do you think when you put the film on? Because big body dude, 6'5", 227 pounds.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I watch clips. I watch his highlights every once in a while. I did not know he was that big. It's a big body receiver, a guy that is going to make the plays for you. And one thing I like about anybody that plays with Aaron Rodgers is that you're automatically going to just improve your game. One guy that really you saw that from was Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams came out of college as a talented receiver. I was his combine roommate, so I saw how he worked.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I saw how he worked, and I saw all those different things, and then I saw him kind of grow as a player. But, Allen Lazard also had that opportunity as well. He didn't come out as a highly touted guy.
Undrafted free agent
out of Iowa State, So that's not really a receiver-friendly school, in terms of, like, those guys getting a lot of receivers get drafted. So you're talking about a guy that continued to grow and learn. He even made a comment. He said, there was a moment where I thought I wasn't going to make the team, and Aaron Rodgers made a call for me. So that's a guy that not only does Aaron Rodgers believes in him, right? So it's great that Aaron Rodgers sees the talent in him, and
especially if you're
grow.
a younger player coming up, because he is going to be pretty specific with what he wants.
Exactly. So exactly what he wants. So if the marriage ends up happening with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, which it should, then that's another guy that you have as a piece that is going to really help that relationship.
How much could he help the run game? And also, I'm looking at his touchdown statistics, and I see 14 touchdowns, 2021, 2022 combined, and say, there's a red zone dude, because a lot of guys you're going to be matching up with on the outside, they can't counter that size.
No, not at all. And I think no matter how the touchdowns were created, getting in the end zone is difficult in the NFL. So, like, a lot of people like to, discount people who get a lot of touchdowns, whether it be scheme or quarterback, all these different things. Regardless of all those different factors, it's challenging to get in the end zone. If it was easy, anybody could do it, right? So you got to think about that. When I was playing, Eric Decker was a touchdown monster in the red zone. That was the guy we kept finding the right plays. He knew how to kind of figure those things out. The more reps you get, the better you get. And so this guy, when he comes here, or now that he is here, he's only going to get better because he has that knowledge of scoring in the red zone.
That is a huge point. Let's get back to the combine. What was Devontae like as a guy when you guys are there in Indianapolis about to embark on your NFL careers?
Well, so I ended up being a 6th-round pick. He was a first, 2nd-round pick. So this guy had all types of meetings. So I never really had, like, by the time I got back to the room, he was going to another meeting. I think we probably had a few conversations. He was a good dude, though. Definitely a good dude. It was cool to kind of see, how that level, a guy that plays at that level, worked.
You like the versatility Wes Schweitzer is going to bring that offensive line? I mean, he's played snaps at every position up front. Coming from Washington, 34 games with the Commanders, I guess the last 3 seasons, 24 starts.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think the more you can do, the NFL is really about that. I think that was one thing that I kind of took a part of really in my game, was the more I could do when I was younger. And I think when you look at the Jets O-line last year, we definitely needed that, because we had all the talent across the board, but the problem was that, there was not enough depth, right? So now when you have another guy like kind of AVT, he might not be at the same mold or talent as AVT, but at least a guy that can play in multiple positions. If somebody goes down, then you have somebody else that can go in and fit that spot, and you can kind of keep that ship running.
He started at center for Washington last year. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Jets' Connor McGovern. The Cowboys' Connor McGovern is now in Buffalo with the Bills, and I think he's going to be playing guard. But he's still out there as well. Do you think the Jets' offensive line is that far away if they do have health? But one thing we were talking about before we started taping was that it's a 100% injury league.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to endure injuries.
Right.
With that being said, the injuries up front last year were
Tough.
They never stopped.
Yeah, it was tough, So, I think if we could take away injuries, I think the Jets O-line is great, right? You got guys at every position able to compete. The problem was injuries. So if you can have depth, then you can at least mitigate some of those injuries.
Dwayne Brown is healthy. He said that he intends to return. You got Elijah Vera Tucker, who's going to start the season probably with a clean bill of health. That's what everybody's saying here at One Jets Drive. Laken Tomlinson returns. And then what do you make of let's not talk about Max Mitchell right now because he's coming back too, and he's going to give you something at the tackle position. What do you make of what you're seeing from Mekhi Becton with all his social media posts and how determined he seems and what he potentially could add to this line?
Yeah, I mean, you the last game that he played was against Carolina, and you saw him just kind of being a mauler, so that's exciting, especially when you got the running back that you have on this team. So it's important. And I met with him one day. We had like a little event with the Jets, former players and current players. I got an opportunity to talk with him briefly, and I like where his head is at. I think, being myself, somebody that had to battle with injuries, to see that he's still kind of keeping that right mentality, knowing that, it's all a part of the process, and eventually he's going to get to where he needs to get to, and he has the mindset to get there. I think that's encouraging, and I think he knows what is at stake for himself, but also with the opportunity that he has with his team. So, I'm looking forward to seeing where he kind of goes this year.
Jets fans, we're in our final push and the clock is ticking. WynnBET is giving you a golden opportunity to win VIP prizes for the 2023 season. The WynnBET Green Room is the most exclusive space at the stadium with all-inclusive food and beverage, lower-level seats, and appearances by Jets legends and celebrities. New Jersey customers, all you need to do is wager at least $100 on WynnBET Sportsbook or Casino. For New York customers, all you need to do is wager at least $100 on WynnBET's Sportsbook. The best part? You get an entry for every $100 you wager.
And if the Jets indeed do keep that number 13 overall selection, a lot of people are thinking maybe you end even another tackle there.
Yeah, I mean, there's the possibilities are endless. I think there's a lot of people are afraid to add to positions that you already have, but sometimes it's great for competition. I know this league is really short-lived in terms of your as a player, you don't have too many years to play. So it's kind of intimidating to bring somebody in, especially when you just got brought in. But it's great for the competition level. It's great to feel like, this person is here to take my spot. This is one more piece for me to drive myself and really become a better player.
Dwayne Brown played with one arm last year.
Yeah.
You got Becton, who's in unbelievable shape right now. We'll have to see how he continues to progress throughout the offseason. I can't wait to see him out here on the field. Mitchell was supposed to be a project, but he played really well for you.
Yeah.
He was further along in his development than anybody could have imagined when they drafted him in the 4th round last year. So you got a good base at the tackle position. And, again, we'll have to see what happens as the draft unfolds. Let's flip to the other side of the ball. Quincy Williams never hit the market. We were talking about it here. Jets Overtime, our free agency preview, 11:30 Saturday night a couple weeks ago. On CBS, we were talking about, hey, Quincy Williams probably going to get multiple suitors.
Yeah.
Joe Douglas kept him off the market. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was the right decision, I think. Not only just from the perspective of this is a talented linebacker, a guy that is a spark plug, he makes all the big plays, but also just in terms of, making your players happy, right? You got Quinton Williams, his brother on the team. For him to know that his brother is still on the team, I think that's a good decision. It also helps that Quincy Williams is a great player. So, the combination of those two, I think they made a great choice there.
That's the only linebacker duo in the National Football League the last 2 seasons where each of those guys, C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams, had 100-plus tackles in 21 and 22. Such an impactful hitter. And you would think that his best is yet to come. This is still a young player who's very explosive, who's finding his comfortability within the scheme.
Yeah, and the surprising thing about linebackers, I feel, is that they play really long. You know, you usually see linebackers have pretty long careers. So, you know, for a guy to be as young as he is and to perform the way he does, I think he's in the right system. The Jets know that, you know, so why not keep him around? He's got the right pieces around him to help him kind of play the way he needs to play. I mean, we showed the play, you know, the other week against the Packers, you know, where he slipped under the block and made that tackle. You know, that has to do not only with him, but also with the line kind of creating those spaces for him and him fitting into his gap. So, you know, it's the right scheme. He knows how to read his plays, and he's a great player.
What do you think about the value there, Chuck Clark? 2024 7th-round pick to Baltimore. Here's a guy who hasn't come off the field the last few seasons with the Ravens. He's got some position flexibility. And then you look deeper, he was that team's 2022 Walter Payton Man of the Year, so he's getting out, helping the community. He was also calling signals on the field on Sundays in the defensive backfield. So that speaks to a little bit of everything he brings to the table.
Exactly. I think, you know, when you bring in a guy that's not only great on the field but off the field, you know, it's a great locker room guy. But then also, you know, it speaks against the competition, right? You're bringing a guy in that is has the longevity, or not so much the longevity, but the ability to stay on the field, like you mentioned. You know, he has not been off the field. He's been able to take a lot of reps, you know, so he's going to come into this room and really push these guys, you know, because the people around him know that he doesn't miss reps. He doesn't miss plays. So it's a great addition.
And you're still talking about a 27, 28-year-old guy. LaMarcus Joyner, who was the primary starter along with Jordan Whitehead last season. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's 32. So if Joyner doesn't return, you add a Clark, and you're also getting younger, and you still can tinker with the position down the line. So, again, Jets a little bit more quiet in free agency last year. You think about all the moves they made, but that was to be expected, right? And, again, a potential big fish out there at quarterback.
Right. You know, I think the Jets know that there are not as big of holes this year as they had previously. You know, I think the biggest position that has been talked about a lot is quarterback, and that's, you know, remaining to be seen when that will happen. But other than that, you know, there are some small pieces to kind of put in, but also guys to develop, because there are guys on the roster who can be that guy for you as long as you put the work in to develop them and make sure that they be the player that they are supposed to be.
Defensive tackle. You're definitely going to have to add a piece or two there.
Definitely.
Solomon Thomas back. He's a depth piece.
Yep.
You like to come at people in waves, but Nathan Shepard, who Robert Saleh called the king of strain for his effort and violence.
I played with him.
Shep down in New Orleans now with the
Yeah.
Saints. And then Sheldon Rankins got himself a nice deal. I believe it was just a one-year deal, but it was north of $10 million with the Houston Texans and their new head coach, DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you look at the way the Jets kind of used their D-line last year. It was really much like, you know, waves. Like, they brought guys in, they brought guys out, really kind of keeping them healthy and ready to go. And I think that's important to do for those guys, because, you know, they're heavier guys, but a lot of times it allows them to just kind of play at full strength every time they go out there. And that's tough for an offensive line to know that, you know, you're going against another guy that just came off the bench, just got a drink of water. Meanwhile, you're still out there on the field grinding.
Yeah. What do you think about free agency as a whole throughout the National Football League? Maybe we should tackle the division first.
No.
Patriots. You got Jacoby Myers. He leaves. He signs with the Raiders, reunited with Josh McDaniels. They counter, though, and bring in Juju Smith-Schuster and also Mike Gesicki. So a guy who's quite familiar inside the division.
Yeah. It's always interesting when you see guys kind of moving within the division. It's almost like, you know what, I want to still play that old team. But, you know, I like what they did there. You know, I know that Jacoby Myers was kind of upset about not being re-signed for the amount that he wanted. But, you know, sometimes the grass may be greener, so he might get an opportunity.
Do you think Juju's an upgrade? I like Myers. I think you think it's a wash.
I like Myers. I do like Myers. You know, when I watched him play, I liked his game. I think with Juju, you really kind of saw that he does still have something in the tank. In the Super Bowl, he was able to help them in the second half. You know, in the first half, he wasn't really involved as much, but when they needed him, he really kind of helped them down the stretch. So that's a guy that still has it, and I think that Bill Belichick knows that he could take something else out of there.
How about the Dolphins? They got Jet South down now. Jet South down there with Braxton Berrios, Dan Feeney, Mike White. But the most notable transaction that they made this offseason was trading for Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, you know, I think they understand, after what Garrett Wilson did to them last year, that they need a little bit more help in the secondary. So I'm excited to see how that looks this year because, those are two really talented cornerbacks, guys that, are not easy to play against, not easy to get around. So, when you have – I think about, and I'm not using this as like an example, right? I'm just thinking about when I was here and playing with Revis and Cromartie. They both upped each other's game, right? And just even now with the Jets right now with DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, they up each other's game. So it'll be interesting to see what they do over there.
And they got a new defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio. Did you see Ramsey? I don't know who posted on social media, but I saw the clip of Ramsey saying that they got the best cornerback duo in the NFL.
He's supposed to say that.
They might not have the best cornerback duo
in the AFC East.
In the AFC East,
yeah.
right?
No.
DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, not too bad.
Yeah, he's supposed to say that. I would be shocked if he didn't say that, especially a guy like him. That's a guy that likes to talk. He's been talking since he was in Jacksonville. So, he's doing exactly what he's always done. And, I appreciate that he's been consistent with it.
How about the Bills? They didn't have a lot of money to spend, so Jermaine Edmonds got a monster contract with Chicago. And you would have figured that Buffalo, that was just too high for them, especially since they're paying Matt Milano. And Jordan Poyer, I think that's a good example of what we saw here at the safety, in the safety market. Yeah. He went and explored free agency before deciding to come back.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think they understand that they have a really talented team, so it'll be interesting to see where they go in the draft. And, I don't know if they're going to take anybody that's going to really change their game. That's a really talented team. They just kind of have to, fix up a few different holes. And obviously they didn't feel like that was needed in free agency.
Yeah, Edmonds, that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
You look at the Bears, they had money to spend. Speaking of the Bears, there were a couple things that I want to get to as far as league happenings concerned. The Carolina Panthers trade up for the Bears' number 1 overall selection.
Yeah.
The package includes, obviously, Carolina's number 1 pick this year, DJ Moore. That pick this year is number 9. DJ Moore is a number 1 receiver in the National Football League. 2024 first rounder and a 2025 second rounder. What do you think about the package, and what do you think about Carolina moving up there?
So I like that they moved up. They've been trying to kind of dabble with different quarterbacks for a little while now. Former first-round picks from Mayfield to Darnold, so they feel like, okay, well, let's go get our own first-round pick.
Okay.
I don't really like letting go of DJ Moore, though. I felt like he was – their guy. They let go of McCaffrey. Yeah, Robbie. They let go of McCaffrey. Yeah. Now they let go of DJ Moore. I feel like this is definitely a rebuilding time for them. So if that is your plan, then at least you're allowing these guys to go somewhere where maybe they'll be able to flourish and have more success. So I get it. This is a part of the league and it's a part of the process.
Where do you stand on Justin Fields?
He's a talented quarterback, I like that he's able to scramble, and he was like the number 1 scrambler in the league last year. But also he's able to make some great throws. I think he's young. He's got some more developing to do, but I think they have a future with him.
Well, the reason why I ask you that is that obviously they're putting more pieces around him, right? They say, hey, let's see what you're at now. Yeah. Maybe we didn't have all the pieces. Now we're just going to start to get the pieces around you and then see how you develop.
Right, and I wish he would have been healthy when we played him. I think that we played when the Jets played him. Yep. He was they had a different quarterback, so we didn't get an opportunity to watch him firsthand. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he's doing with all the weapons that he has around him now.
Yeah. That is so interesting. Do you have a lean as far as that first pick, as far as the quarterbacks between Stroud and Bryce Young?
No, not really. I think the college game, there are so many different guys to watch. I even think about what was this past year with the quarterback that was taken by Tennessee?
Malik Willis.
Yeah, like there was no way for me to have known that he was going to, you know what I mean? So it's so difficult for me to know, those guys that really understand the game and understand college and understand what these teams are going for. That's a whole different level of analysis that I'm just not there yet, I think, it sounds like it's between C.J. Stroud and
Bryce Young from Alabama.
Yeah.
And then you got two projects out there. You're talking about Richardson from Florida, who's a freak athlete.
I saw that he went crazy at the combine.
And there's somebody who's going to say, hey, listen, I can take that potential, I can take that talent, and I can mold that.
Right.
But if you watch him at Florida last year, he definitely endured his struggles and had some accuracy problems throwing the football.
Yeah, I saw some reports about him. I never really watched him, but I saw that he wasn't really the most accurate quarterback there. The thing about the project quarterbacks in the first round, that's a huge risk, and you're not only putting your team, you are putting your team at kind of a deficit. You have to have a lot of veterans around that guy, because he needs the support, because not only is he trying to get better as a player in terms of like throwing and all those other things, but also as the mind of a quarterback, so you need to kind of have people around him to kind of help him not have to think as much.
Let's end here and go back to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the young guns before, the Sauces, the Reeses, the Garretts. What's it like for them this offseason? Obviously, they're watching what's happening with the quarterback, and they're having fun, and they're bonding. But how different is it for you as a former player when you were in their shoes? Are you able to take a breath after year one and going into year two and feel more comfortable, and you don't have to go through this pre-draft process and I'm going to visit the Jets and I'm going to visit the Lions and I got to go through all these interviews? What's the difference in mindset now?
Yeah, I'll say this. I commend those guys for coming in as rookies and performing the way they did, because that offseason is like no other offseason. You go from playing a full season, and then you're going straight into training. Then you got to go to combine, and you got to go to your pro day. Then immediately after you get drafted, you're flying out here. Then you have to do all these other different things. Then you have rookie stuff. Like as a pro, like most times our season is up, and then we get a nice little chunk of time before we have to go do anything. So I think they're definitely relaxing and really enjoying that time that they didn't get to have beforehand. But like I said, I really commend them, because to do all that and then to go through a long season, because this season is longer than any season before, right? They're playing that many more games, and to perform at the level that they did, that's huge. So that only tells me that they're going to continue to improve and be some great players.
Do you like primetime games as a player?
Oh, yeah, definitely. All eyes are on you, and then especially at night with the lights. It's back to high school football, Friday night lights, that feel, that vibe, so I love them.
The reason why I asked is Peter King, who's been covering the NFL for decades. It's such a high level. He had a little nugget in his piece the other day and said, the Jets are probably going to get the maximum primetime games next year.
Yeah, I can see it.
So that means 5. Again, last year it was, hey, you knew the Jets were playing at 1 o'clock.
Right.
This year, especially if they do get a marquee veteran quarterback, this team is going to be under those primetime lights a lot next year, Q.
And it'll be good. I think it'll be good for these guys. I think they're going to enjoy it.
I enjoy this.
Yeah,
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
And again, you can check us out, CBS Free Agency Recap. That's Saturday night, 11:30 p.m. Or check us out on YouTube. Always good seeing you.
Yes, sir. You too.